Hi, welcome back to the Political Beat. I'm Pat. This is Chip. We cover City Hall for lfpress.com and the London Free Press. So Chip, that's a really nice shirt, by the way. You know what? Two words come to mind when I look at that shirt.
Walmart?
No.
That's one word.
No. Sartorial splendor.
Oh, sartorial splendor.
So I just wanted to say how much I liked your shirt.
Thank you, Pat.
That's a little dog whistle. That's a little dog whistle for the people who complained about your wardrobe.
I know. My wife complained about my wardrobe last week, so we won't do that again.
It's a nice shirt, though. I like it.
She says, you always look so nice. Why can't I look like you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard to keep up.
I know. Very hard.
You can only have one number one.
That's true.
Right. Everybody else falls short. So here's an interesting issue that came up this week. Food trucks, which I have to admit, I have never eaten from a food truck, and I'm not sure I ever would, although I did once eat a sandwich from a gas station. I'm not sure if that counts, but these are, and friend of the show, Norm DeBono, said, this is a really hot issue. People care. And we did a big story today about the proposal to have a pilot project and allow a few food trucks to roll out on London streets, see how it goes. And that story has got like 100 comments on it. So it is a really big issue. There's a really passionate base of people that want food trucks. What do you think about the idea in general before we get into the specifics?
I like the idea of not having to tip somebody when you have a meal. That's kind of a nice advantage. Meals on Wheels, it's a very good program. Oh, are you talking about the food trucks?
Yes, food trucks.
No, I think I like the idea of food trucks, and the more exotic, the better, quite frankly. It adds to our choice, but I do feel sorry for the restaurateurs that are paying the overhead and the taxes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
And to your point about the exotic fare, Ottawa just rolled out a program, and we have a story on our website at lfpress.com that details sort of briefly the Ottawa program, and they have public health officials and actual like food experts that vet or have to approve the menus before you get a food truck license. They approve the menus, and the politicians this week, instead of approving the pilot project, which would have allowed 3 trucks around Victoria Park for basically for I guess the summer and the fall, the politicians asked staff to go back and in the next 2 weeks look at allowing more trucks for the pilot project, expanding the area they're allowed in to be on downtown, and to police the menus. And I personally think that's a good idea because it seems that the people that are passionate about food trucks, and again, I'm not one of them, that's what they want. They want fish tacos and Mexican desserts and stuff like that. They don't want
policing the menu. I have some trouble with that concept. Policing the menu. What does that mean?
Well, it means part of when you apply for a license for a food truck, theoretically in London, Ontario, your menu has to be approved. That would be the idea, that your menu would have to be approved. So you can't just set up shop and sell hot dogs and hamburgers, which was specifically what Harold Usher said he does not want to see. And I think that's a good idea because that's how you make it unique. That's how you make it something sort of cosmopolitan, which I think is part of the appeal.
At the risk of sounding like a libertarian, why would the city government be telling people or saying what food is acceptable in food trucks and what isn't? Shouldn't the consumer decide what the consumer wants to eat?
Yes.
And if there's too many weenie wagons running around with the same old,
pizza
same old stuff, people would say, well, thanks anyway, but I'm going to go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Why are we policing this? Yes, I think it's interesting that you'd add to the variety of stuff available in the city, the fact it's quick, the fact you don't have time to sit down for a meal, you don't have to tip and all that sort of stuff. That's got some advantages, but why police the menu?
Yeah, I see that point, and I think it makes sense.
I think it's a darn good point.
It is a good point, well thought out, cogent, very reasoned, but I just
cerebral, very.
But
cerebral.
I don't agree with it, and I think that because I think that part of the appeal of these things is they're supposed to be sort of off the beaten path, right? And
food-wise, you mean?
Food-wise, yeah.
Because they're going to be right on they're going to be right on the beaten path where people are.
Good point. Yes, but they're not what you can get at Stobie's or whatever. Something different, and again, that makes the business a lot harder to make viable potentially. But that's part of the risk you take, I suppose. So it'll be interesting to see what staff comes back with. But that's where the political push is to do that. And personally, I can only really remember seeing, in my travels around the globe, seeing food trucks in Toronto. That's the only place I can remember seeing them really, and they don't look good. I think they're sort of an eyesore. So I don't really like the idea of trucks parked at the curb selling food. But then again, clearly I'm missing something because there's a lot of people that really like the idea.
Apparently, you know, I just think it adds to the variety of stuff that would be out there. Yes, some of the trucks look pretty grotty. Yes, some of the food looks pretty grotty, and all the carbon monoxide.
Well, they're not running, Chip. They're parked, right? There's not.
What about? Okay, well, that's true. What about if they need air conditioning or something?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this is all how it goes, and I think that that's part of the thing that industry deals with in other cities is the impression that I have, and I suspect that you have, that the food isn't very good, it's not clean. They like to think it's like a restaurant on wheels, and they'll obviously be.
Well, it looks like a busy and vibrant city, and it might have some add a little to the ambience of downtown when you sit in Victoria Park and you can just walk over to the curb and there's you know, falafels or tacos or. Quite frankly, I hope Hamburger Helper is on the fare, but that's just me.
What about Craig Glover wants to start one selling gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches?
Gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches. More power to him. That he'd have to get the license to do that from the police, the food police.
Could be good though. Could be tasty. That's enough of that. This was something interesting that came up at planning, which you covered so ably last night. Western Counties Health and Occupational Center. Walk us through this sort of unique.
Well, this is a property that a lot of people in London haven't been to, and I think you indicated you haven't been there, Pat. I've been down there a few times. It's right on the edge of Westminster Ponds. It's south of Parkwood Hospital, and it's a campus for a health facility that was intended for veterans from the First and Second World Wars who were dealing with physical and some mental issues and needed occupational health and that sort of thing. And these buildings were all designed to sort of be arrayed around the pond known as Saunders Pond, and there were health cottages and pavilions, and at one point there were golf courses and bowling alleys and the that sort of thing to get people who are suffering, servicemen who had been suffering, to reconnect in a stress-free environment, right, using landscape therapy, as they've called it. At any rate, this has fallen into disrepair. There's not a lot going on down there. A number of buildings have been taken down, but it's, I think, 7 hectares or 7 acres, the main part of it, right on the edge of the pond. And they've decided that it's worth saving. It would become the city's first cultural heritage landscape, the first in Ontario. There's money from the Ontario government to do this, and this would preserve it and enhance it and allow more people to use it, say for picnics, for walking the dog, passive recreation, and that sort of thing. Now, there's a possibility that they might spend almost $500,000 in a 3-phase program to develop it. But
how much, sorry?
Almost $500,000, $460,000 over 3 phases. But at this point, they simply want to have it designated, and then they can raise funds and find some sources of money to deal with that over the years. But it's a really interesting area, very scenic. It's almost got the qualities of a ghost western town to it.
Oh, cool!
You could almost see a movie shot on that set. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's a cool prospect. I like and that description is a great one. I think that the whole project kind of speaks to we have a really good planning department here, and it's projects like this that remind me of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make a priority of things that I fear might otherwise not be a priority in the city. So
this was one of 7 across the country, and apparently one of the largest. And people who are interested in the veterans and servicemen and that sort of thing, they may be called upon to help preserve this thing. So it's a very interesting. And if you've never been down there, go down on Commissioners Road, go south of Parkwood Hospital, follow the road down, and there's some parking areas there, and you can just wander around. It's an absolutely fascinating part of the city, and you'd never know you were in the city.
Well, that's cool. That's great. Another issue that was up this week, and we'll come back again in a couple of weeks to full council, is the licensing of methadone clinics and pharmacies that treat 40 or more patients per day. So if you have fewer than that, these rules don't apply to you. But the big bugaboo is that the licensing would require security cameras on the exterior of these facilities. You have to have them. And the fear from some people in the health field, including the College of Physicians and Surgeons, who sent us a letter today, and by the time this airs, that story will be on lfpress.com if you want to read it. They're fearing that this will be another deterrent to people who should be seeking help, people who are struggling with opiate addiction or to seeking help to get methadone. And I kind of see the point. I see that argument very clearly.
I do too. It's been suggested that, for instance, people AA meetings, they wouldn't want to have security cameras outside of AA meetings because that takes away the anonymity. However, the fact of the matter is that just about everything we do these days is captured on camera one way or another. I go to the bank this morning, I'm on camera. I'm in traffic, I'm on camera. I mean, I'm on camera here, quite frankly. But we are a society that is being watched by security cameras more and more and more, and I don't know, it's just a fact of life these days.
I guess the camera, there's an implication with the camera. This is to ensure nothing gets out of control at the methadone clinic. And all this is born out of the concerns about 528 Dundas and loitering and overcrowding, but the city has put in place sort of, I guess they're affiliated with this licensing thing, but the zoning rules are in place. I think they will find that they will ensure those kinds of neighborhood conflicts don't get repeated anywhere else. This is my opinion. I don't see what security cameras do that the planning rules and the zoning rules haven't already done. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there is a concern. There's a concern amongst people that oppose these clinics that there would be drug dealing and people preying on the people that come to these clinics. So, in fact, if there were security cameras, potentially the police could use the footage on that to help track down drug dealers that are preying upon people that are trying to get help for themselves. So there's that aspect to it too.
And again, I encourage you to just, if you read the story, that we always have a definition of methadone that we trot out, that methadone is a liquid medication that mimics several drugs and it eliminates or reduces the craving for those drugs. So these are people who are trying to get off drugs. Methadone is not itself a drug. I think that's a common misconception. But anyway, that's another story for another day. You're going on vacation?
Yes, I will be away, and I hope you have some talent here, like Mr. Richmond the last time.
Can you lend him your shirt?
I think you'd be a little large for Mr. Richmond. But
thanks for watching us, and we'll see you next time at lfpress.com.
Sign off.